Here to keep the chase going, share information, spread unity, preserve our heritage and our culture. We're trying to achieve something that you just can't catch. We're always trying to find a better way, trying to make better dogs. That's what Dixie Doggers Podcast is. That's who we are.
This episode is brought to you by Rankin Ranch 38 Cattle Company. Marc Rankin specializes in Brahma and Brahma Cross cattle in Oglethorpe County, Georgia. You can contact him at 407-832-2077. 407-832-2077. This episode is also brought to you by Phil Wilson of UC Hunting Properties. If you're buying or selling land, farms, or hunting property, these folks know land. You can contact him at 678-791-3483, 678-791-3483, or visit his website down below in the description.
Okay, everybody, we're back again. It's me and my son, Nate Dogg. We got a damn good show for you. Listen, we got a guest tonight that has been requested a few times, and I have trying to learn some stuff about her. This is a lady hog hunter. This is Miss Cody Fox. She runs some hounds. She got some bulldogs, and she don't play around. And this is by deep request from Miss Tracy Osborne. I got to say that. So, but Miss Cody Fox, thank you for being on our show. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I'm doing really good. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. Well, that's we were talking just a few minutes before we got recording here, and I can tell that you definitely know what's happening. No doubt about it. Just what little bit we got to talk. So, if you, for the listeners and for myself as well, will you give us a little backstory, some history on, who you are, where you're from, and how you got into running dogs and what you're doing now?
Yeah, I'm from Powhatan, Arkansas, which is about an hour away from the Missouri line. It's 2 hours from Little Rock and 2 hours from Memphis. So it's kind of like center and up. But I got into hog hunting whenever a buddy named John Nar. I used to train horses with him, and me and my dad would catch wild cattle on horseback, and every now and then we'd use one of my dogs to catch them, like a bulldog to catch a really, really bad one that we couldn't get out of the bushes or out of a pond. So we'd use a bulldog and whatnot. So I've always been in the animal adrenaline part, like running, chasing cattle on horseback, catching them with dogs, that whole aspect. And then when I was training horses with John Nar, he's like, Cody, I think you would really like wild hog hunting. And so I went with him one time, and I found the hog, actually, because I was like, we were hunting, and his Catahoula dogs he had with him, they were out hunting. He had two that were really, really good, and I didn't see him the whole hunt. It was the best performance I've ever seen out of a Catahoula dog. Anyway, so I never saw them, but they had one young dog with us, and I was walking down this road, and I seen some movement, and I look, and there's a hog, and sure enough, he's like, let's get it. Let's put this young dog on it. And I was like, okay, don't know what's going on. Like the dog bayed and then the bulldog's caught. And I was just in shock and awe. I was like, this is cool. I want more of that. And so it kind of went from there.
Wow. That's my first hunt. I didn't even get to see a pig at all, but I was hooked. It grabs you. And so I couldn't imagine if I'd been walking down the road that first hunt and seen a hog and got to get on. I would have been even crazier than I am about it now. And so,
it was really neat.
And so you said that's probably the best performance by Catahoula you've seen. So that tells me there that you like the hounds.
Well, I definitely like the hounds and the bulldogs a little bit more than I like cur dogs. Now,
gotcha.
I have seen some good cur dogs.
Well, that's I was a little different. I had a lot of terrier stock. I didn't care for cur dogs when I first started for quite a few years, and then I got to seeing some pretty good cur dogs. And I realized that, a good dog is where you find it. And I know that covers a broad deal, but that couldn't hold more true, because if you, like where we live at, there's some cur dogs around, but they're not what I want or what works for me. So I had to go somewhere where I can get them,
Right.
And the same thing with hounds. We're in coon dog country. We got tons of coon dogs, but as far as hog dogs, that's a whole different deal.
You don't have as many hound and hog dogs in your country?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
We don't have that many hog hunters right where I live at. And I think we have a ton of them now, which we've got about 6 in our county, 6 or 8. And that's a lot, because for a long time there was only me and 1 or 2 other people that I know of.
Yeah.
For many years, for probably a decade or better.
Okay.
But like I said, I've seen some really good hounds, but most of the hounds here are more bigger, bulky treeing stock.
Yeah.
Not really running stock. So what kind of hounds are you running?
Well, like I said, I said it earlier before we started recording. My first hounds were 2 English dogs that they said I seen them on Craigslist. They said they were started on hogs and blah blah blah, and I messaged them and I'm like, hey, I'm interested. Can you tell me more about them? So they send me videos, and I recognize the land that they're on, and then I recognize the hogs, and I'm like, those are domestic hogs. And I was like, so I look at the videos and I call the guy back and I'm like, where are you guys hunting at? And he tells me, and I was like, okay, so these dogs are actually started on domestic hogs that get out of this really, really old man's property. Like, this guy's got to be almost 90 something years old, and he's got 600 head of hogs on his place, and the fences are terrible, and the hogs get out a lot. And every video and picture they sent me was those hogs. And I was like, okay, so these dogs are started on kind of loose domestic hogs. But I was like, you know what? My first hounds, I'll try them. So I bought both of them, and it was a really, really rough road. But Lord, I learned so much on how to train that kind of dog. Because in the beginning, I had for 6 years, I had American Pit Bull Terriers that would find and catch their own hogs. And that involves a lot of walk hunting or four-wheelers, and the scent has to be fairly warm. It's got to be, I think the oldest nosed bulldog I ever had was 45 minutes. And that, for some people, that's like, oh, that's nothing. But for a full-blooded pit bull, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And he found that hog in the mountains. So it was like 45-minute-old mountain hog,
and that's where he had to go. Different animal. It really
those are very different. Those are very, very powerful, very powerful hogs.
Their front end is like a Mack truck. Yeah,
and they're taller and narrower, and they can run. Yes, they can run straight up and it's amazing. I really admire them. And I've trapped some too for landowners, and it's great for training dogs and whatever. But the hardest trapping hogs I've ever caught was mountain hogs. I had to change my trap. I used to just have normal pins in there, like, you put the panels together, drop the pin in. Well, I had to get extended rebar, and I would have to put long rebar strips in it because they hit it so hard and almost jumped completely out. And my pin was small, so it's not like they had a good run at it, but they were just super athletes. And I admire the mountain hogs over any other hog.
Same here. It's a whole different deal. And we've run into that, like you were talking about. We ran a hot nose, real rough. All they were running catch dogs. Now they would probably take a track that's a couple hours old. They were crossed. We had some American Pit Bull Terriers crossed with the Jags, Patterdales, bird dogs, bird bulls. Once we got to those, it was a little older, but it's a lot of work in these mountains.
Yes, you
get two hollers over and you're caught. You're fixing to be busy.
Yeah, your heart's hammering just from hiking, not just from the adrenaline of your dog, Scott, but the hike to get there, it kills you.
Yes, man, it does. It's rough, and I like it. Every now and then we'll start out the year in the flat ground, swamp bottoms, and man, it's kind of, I ain't gonna say easy, but it's a lot easier. And after about 4 or 5 hunts, Nathan, he'll look at me like, Dad, we need to go up there and get in shape. And we'll have to go up here and hit these hills.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it about kills me.
Yeah. Well, whenever winter gets full blast here, I think I'm in pretty good shape. And then I go to the mountains and I'm like, I lied to myself. I'm not as strong as I thought I was.
Now, when we were talking earlier, you said something, and that's when I cut it off, because you were talking about hunting summertime, hunting more in the flat ground.
Oh, yes. Yes, sir.
And you said
the
about the
ground,
ticks.
Yeah. My flat ground spots, which is along the Black River, that goes I hunt from all the way at Portia to Elgin.
Yep.
That's my biggest span. I've even gone down to Jacksonport, so it's a huge area to look. If you look at it on a map, all the way down Black River from Portia to Jacksonport. And for some reason, in that flatland country, there are no ticks, no seed ticks, no big ticks. I don't get ticks on me. So when summertime is in full blast, I do not come out of the bottoms. Number one, the water, and number two, the ticks. Like, the water is good for the dogs, keep them cool, and the ticks is just like it's. I don't like sea ticks at all. It's just
I don't either.
It drives me nuts. So, but yeah, in the bottoms for some reason, I don't know if it's because it floods or if because they spray so much pesticide, which you would think if it kills the ticks, it should kill the blasted mosquitoes. Because I exchanged the ticks for an ungodly amount of mosquitoes.
Well, like I was saying a while ago, we hunt in the river bottoms too, and I've noticed that the ticks aren't as bad. And you're probably the first person that I've talked to that said anything about it. That's why when you said that, I was like, wait a minute, let's say this and let's do this while we're recording, because I don't know if there's a lot of folks out there that pay that much attention to stuff like that,
Yeah. Well, whenever, like, I take my daughter, and she's 3, and I've been taking her since she was, I want to say just a few months old. I'd wrap her up against me on my back, and I'd take her out. But if it was during the summer, I would only take her in the bottoms so that we wouldn't get ticks on us. So, like, I consider the children whenever I take them hog hunting too. If it's summertime, we go to No Tickville and all that other stuff. So
we'll be back after a quick break.
And now, thanks to the sponsors and friends of Dixie Doggers. Animal Housing Solutions.
Boars N Broads.
Crockett Taxidermy.
Hardcore Hog Dogs.
Southern Cross Cut Gear.
Ada Y Transport.
4L Kennels.
The American Doghorn Museum.
Unique Hound and Hunting Supply.
Hogbaying.com.
Tuskers Magazine.
Mud Creek Hog Dog Trials.
Now I guess that comes hand in hand with having the natural instinct of a woman. Because I'm going to be honest with you, most of us guys, we drag them kids right through everything. we don't think about nothing but catching a damn hog. And so that's pretty cool. So now I'm gonna have to start thinking about it, because I don't want Nate to get no ticks on him now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not the most fun thing having to look through.
No.
Look through every crook and cranny on them to find a tick, and like you find it days later and it's all swelled up, and it's just
not healthy.
Sad.
Yeah, it's not healthy at all.
No.
And it can lead to a lot of issues. And I've got those issues and had them for 10 years or better now because of ticks.
You got tick fever and stuff?
Oh yeah. I've had well, I got the Rocky Mountain spotted fever.
Oh man.
Over 10 years ago. And then I thought I was going to have to battle with Lyme disease, but luckily I don't know how I got out of that. My youngest son, he had the The same thing with the spotted fever.
Oh.
And now anytime a tick gets on me, if a tick attaches itself to my body, I'm going to know within an hour, because the first time that I had a tick that got buried up in there, it was on my lower back, and that's been at least 15 years ago. If I get a tick on my toe, my lower back will start itching. If I get it on my arm, it will itch on my lower back, exactly where that first tick was.
Oh my goodness.
And then it'll go from that. You can ask Nate, Rodney, anybody that's ever hunted with me. I will literally, if I'm sitting here talking, I will literally just kind of go to sleep while I'm talking. Yep. And then if I can find the tick and get it off of me, 15 minutes later, I'm fine.
Oh, that's scary. There was a landowner that got the tick fever so bad that he can only eat deer meat. He can't deer and fish and chicken, like no beef, no pork. And he wanted to go hog hunting with me, and I took him. And that we killed a couple young hogs, and he got that hog blood on him, and he's like, my skin's on fire. And so we had to like wash him off in the creek and stuff.
Wow.
It's bizarre what kind of damage that stuff will do to you.
Which I know that they told me I had to be careful on what I ate, but we eat a lot of wild game anyway. So, and if I'm not eating wild game, I'm eating straight junk food. I'm talking about the worst. I mean, like Nutter Butter cookies. I mean, like butter pecan ice cream, Totino's pizza, the good stuff. So, it's either super healthy 1 day a week or really shitty for the other 5 or 6.
I understand.
Yeah, that's the way I do it. It's the way I roll. So with being a woman in this industry, like we had a guest on not long ago, Jen Cubbage, and Jen, she's self-taught. Not from a hunting background or family, and she said she has to deal with a lot of issues and stuff doing that. Give us a little rundown on how some of the stuff you have to deal with, the good and the bad. I mean, what's the advantages of it, and what's the disadvantages of it, of being a woman in the industry and a single woman that has your own dogs and you know how to hunt. You're not just tagging along. Yeah.
I'm not doing the short tail thing. I'll start out strong with the negative, and then we'll work our way back up.
Sounds good.
Okay, so when it comes to getting land to hunt, it's 50-50. Either the landowner is interested only because I'm a woman and what he could get out of that, and the other part could be like, she's a woman, she's probably going to take better care of my property than a man will. And I've gotten land because of that, but I've also gotten land because the guy thought something was going to happen, and when it didn't, I got kicked off that land almost immediately. And so that's like the good and bad of it. And usually I don't find out about it until like I've told him, like, look, I'm just like, no means no. And then I'm like, hey, it's a good day for me to go hunting. Can I get on your place? They're like, no. And I'm like, oh, that's because I didn't, give you what you wanted. So for landowner type situations, I've had that happen several times. And then there's been people that have been like, hey, here's the keys and go whenever you want. Just don't go during deer season or turkey season, and I never hear from them. And those are my favorite. Those are my favorite landowners.
Yes.
I take care of their property. I take care of their hogs, and they love it. But they don't bother me. And I love that.
And that's because you're doing your job and you're doing it correctly, and you're leaving a good footprint.
Yeah, and if ever they like, hey, my kids would like to go, I take good care of their kids, and their kids love me, and I try to take good care of them and their property, and that usually that gains me more land. And a lot of other hog hunters don't really like that I kill just about every hog I come in contact with. But guess who loves that? The landowners. And I get more land because I don't catch and release and stuff like that. And I give hogs to people to eat. I give the landowners the hogs. I give their friends, and so on and so forth.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like I said, every geographical location calls for a different application, I think.
Absolutely.
Like where we're at, in Alabama, we cannot have a live hog. We can't release anything. So legally, when you put your hands on a hog or you catch a hog, it has to be dispatched. And
yeah.
So, some landowners want us to trap, and we trap so that way we can run our dogs.
Yep, I do the same thing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I've had some of the local guys that they didn't agree with it necessarily. And they're like, man, you're over here trapping all these hogs. Well, am I? You know what I mean? I'm trapping what I can. I'm trapping what I need to. And that's why I have that land.
Yeah. We all know that hogs are like trapping is a very successful way of removing hogs. We all know it. We all may not want to be like, a huge supporter of it because we don't want to be out of our game, but it is a huge advantage for the landowners to have them caught in mass amounts. Yes. And then clean up with the dogs or thermal or whatever, which I'm always like, catch with traps, clean up with dogs,
Oh yeah.
I don't support the thermal hunters.
I got a landowner right now that he has our thermal. You
guys.
Yeah, well, we don't use it. It's like we have it there, and I'll be honest, he's used it more than we have. But at the same time, if there's a 250-pound boar hog with good teeth, he'll call me and say, "Hey, y'all bring them dogs, come down here and catch this one."
Oh my goodness!
Yes,
that's a good man right there. That's
and
a good man.
If there's a sow with 2 litters of little pigs running around, he'll say, "Hey, I'm gonna bait that far trap down there," and he said, "I don't know what happens when I catch him." You know what I'm saying? He's one of those landowners.
Okay, so he's a good man.
Yes, without a doubt. So he sent me a picture yesterday, and he had knocked out a few shoats that were probably 50, 60 pounds. That helps me because now my older dogs and young dogs, they're not in there running them in a circle.
Yes, it does help a lot.
Yeah, now we just go straight down there and get on big boy or big girl, whichever one.
Yes.
Well, if my dogs are any good, they would, but most time we don't.
It just depends, just like some days we don't know what we're doing out there. We're just running them up.
That's exactly right. So now you said you started out using pits and using, like running catch dogs.
Yep.
You still use pits for catch dogs?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. So what kind of bloodlines, or do you have a particular bloodline that you like to run, or is this some of your own stuff? Or
well, the when I did the run and catch dogs, I had a lot of classic canine, which is more or less classic canine was more show line, and then they kind of influenced with bully dogs like extra large and all that stuff. And I had the old classic canine where it was more show line and like a sprinkle. My red dog, my first hog dog was red, and he was registered ADBA, American Pit Bull Terrier, but I did know back in the way back that he had a little sprinkle of bully back in there on the classic canine side, but he also had Gary Hammond's blood on the bottom, and then Red Boy Jocko, and best hog dog I could have ever asked for, best running catch dog, best people dog, like the best. Yep. So I looked for more dogs like that. I didn't have a whole lot of luck with the Red Boy Jocko stuff. I didn't have any luck with classic canine. They were all curs, every one I ever had, other than red. And then the Gary Hammond stuff, that was hit and miss. Some of it was good. Some of it was, they were like kind of curs and then like kind of man biters, and I wasn't about that. I will not ever have a man biting dog.
That's right.
And so I fooled with that. And they were really, the Gary Hammond's stuff mixed in with the Eli dogs, like the Mr. Floyd Boudreaux, and some of the El Negro dogs that come from Tom Garner. Those were really fantastic running catch dogs. Now, they were not all ear dogs, like, a traditional catch dog. Everyone wants them on the ear. Like some of these running catch dogs were strictly on the leg. And, whenever I would go hunt a pack of running catch dogs, it would help, like one on the ear, one on the leg, or 2 on the ear, 1 on the leg, and it made my job a whole lot easier because not only was his head controlled, but his leg was crippled too.
That's right. He shuts them down.
It does, and it didn't bother me if they were caught on the leg, unless it was only a leg dog caught on it. I was less like, oh God, I gotta dance with it now.
Yeah,
but
that can be a pain in the butt there.
yes.
What's the biggest hog that you caught? That I mean, like that by yourself, or just you and your dogs.
Okay. Well, the biggest hog I caught with Will Bradley. That was 382 something. But anyways, that was the biggest one. And but the biggest one I've ever caught by myself was 320, and it was my dogs, and it was me by myself, and I got a video of it on my TikTok. Because as soon as I seen him, I was like, oh Lord, I know that's a 300-pounder. Because I had caught two 280 pounders by myself, and I was like, Lord, that's a big hog, but I guessed him at 250. But when I caught that 380 pounder, now when I see a hog and it looks like that, I'm like, oh, it's a 300-pounder,
Yeah, there you go.
So
we don't ever get to see many 300-pounders ourselves now.
Yeah, like I've caught 4 big giant hogs like that. I caught 2 280s, a 380, and then that 320, and that's in 13 years. So
yeah, that's good hogs though. That's big hogs.
Yeah, and I prefer them over them small, scrappy, hardcore boars. I would rather have a 300-pounder any day
than a 180. Yeah.
Yes, Lord help me. I hate them lightweight boars that just meaner than snakes.
Mm-hmm. We pulled one yesterday. Me and Nate went down there and pulled him out, and he was about 225. And I'm probably sandbagging a little bit on that, to be honest with you. He was heavy, but I did not weigh him. So I don't want to be one of those that's like, oh yeah, he's 250. And Nate was Nate looked at me, he's like, he's 250, 260. I was like, but this was one of those mountain hogs, and he was lean. That son of a gun was long, and he had teeth that were about 1.25 inches. I was like, I'm so glad.
No. Yes.
He was super long.
Yeah. The landowner actually caught him in a pig rig that we set up for him. So I was glad. I was like, you know what? This right here would have been a bad son of a gun.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
His nose was touching the ground, and I'm 5'10", and his ass was like at my chin, at my teeth.
Oh yeah. His body was over 5
winching him up.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, because the back straps I pulled off of him was huge. I was very happy. And then the rest went to some dog food.
That's right. But no,
he fed about 30 head. He went a long ways.
Nice.
We try not to leave much in the woods if we can help it,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, they don't, they.
And puppies from Rusty was fighting the hell out of each other over some kidneys.
Was they?
Yeah, I don't know if they had ever had any raw before, but they was like looking at it, and they bit on it a little bit, and then they was just trying to choke it down. I was like, you have to slow down. You have to slow down.
Nathan's corrupting my puppies. That's what it's doing.
Oh, and he's making them savage. Isn't that what pet lovers are like? You'll make them mean.
Oh yeah, they're
if
gonna
you
be
give them raw.
Oh, they get the taste of blood.
That's the blood.
And listen, Cody, I have had in the past few years since we've been doing this, we have traveled a lot, which we traveled some beforehand, but like we travel a lot now. And I literally have had grown men sit there and tell me, well, I want that puppy to get that taste. That way he'll want to hunt them.
Oh, no.
I was like,
Lord mercy.
I was like, well, that's not really how we hunt them. We're not blood tracking.
Right.
And so I don't really discuss it anymore. I just like, yep, that's what I would do. I'd let him just eat the guts. Give her hell.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Oh God. when I catch that hog, I tell all my dogs, bulldogs, hounds, I'm like, all right, that's enough. And then like the hounds go find some more. The bulldogs are like, all right, she said that's enough. Well, that's enough. And because I don't want them chewing on it and ripping it open. I don't want all that. So
are you for real?
Like when
Are you a real person?
Am I a real person?
Yeah. Are you like a real person? Because the reason I say that is like you sound like a real hog hunter. But you're a woman too. I mean, is this for real?
Is it for real?
Tracy Osborne was right. Damn, now I gotta tell her she was right. Listen, I wanna go hunting. I wanna go hunting with you. You can come over here, y'all come over and go hunt with us. However you want to do it. We got to do this. And the reason I say that, there's a lot of people that we hunt with they don't brush their dogs off of a hog. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
no, it's
yeah.
crazy. Them dogs will be in there just chewing and fighting. And I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
my dogs need to be rolling. I mean, need to be going. And anybody that I hunt with, like if we come hunt with you and you're at the hog first, I expect you to make sure my dogs are not, because I'm always going to have 1 or 2 young dogs regardless.
Right.
I'm always trying to bring that pack up. So when you get there, if I'm not there, I'm expecting you to say, hey, leave it alone. Go find another one. Caught hog, dead hog, move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the kind of people, that's why I was like, man, this is, because there's a lot of people that don't do that.
Yeah. And I've had a lot of problems with people and their dogs causing fights or, hurting one of my dogs that was, just there. And I'm like, now my dog's cut out of the hunt. Or I have had this happen. Their dog attacks my catch dog, and some of my catch dogs are just nasty. They are super good minded around all dogs, but if you bite them, they're going to get you. And then their dog's hurt, and then they look at me, and I'm like, don't look at me. Your dog did that.
That's right. Put a handle on your dog.
Yeah. And it's like, and mine will be tied back and minding their business, but then their dog will be guarding, and it just, and I hate that. I get onto all my dogs for it. We're tone broke. If I say that's enough, more than I'll give my bulldogs like about 4 times because I know their mindset's a little bit stronger than the hound or a cur.
They get in that moment too. They're all fired up.
Yeah, and I give them a few minutes on the hog, but like when the hog stops moving, y'all get off it, and then if they don't listen, it's a tone. If that tone don't get their attention, then it's a shock, and then usually after the shock, they come and sit next to me, and they're like, okay, they calm. And the bay dogs, they hear me, and then they leave.
Now on your no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, after the puppy stage, at first, you don't want to hurt the puppies for being on the hog. You're like, yes, good poopy, good job, you did so great, and then eventually you're like, okay, get out of here.
That's right. Now on your bay dogs, strike dogs that you have, are they open on track, silent, or are they long casting dogs? Or
I went from complete dead silent to murder catching violently, silent and violent, I guess you would call it, to loud and proud.
Really?
Yeah, it was a complete change because I went from silent to open on track every breath, and it was different, but I have come to really enjoy it, and I don't mind them being open. There was a girl that I raised up hunting with me, and she went, and her dog was silent, and it was really interesting, her dog versus my dogs, and it was usually 50-50, like 50% of the chance or time her dog would find in bay hogs silent as a grave, and 50% of the time my dogs would. But her dog learned behind my hounds, so like they would get the race going because she couldn't smell it, and then she would take it.
Once it got hot enough, she'd pick it up.
Once it got hot enough, she would run it, and then like as silent as could be. She'd even be a mile ahead of my dogs as fast. She's just one of them super fast cur dogs.
Yeah.
She'd fall bayed, and then my dogs would come in, and I'm like, Lizzie, we need to get to the bay because with them loud sons of guns get there, it's gonna break.
Yeah,
like I know that when there's a quiet dog bayed, like we need to get there before the loud gang gets there. And I do know, I acknowledge that them loud dogs can bust a bay, but I also have seen them loud dogs never give up a track, and that cur dog quits, and it's like I can't do X amount of miles, and then that hound just pushes until that hog is stopped and exhausted.
And that's the biggest thing, that the hound versus cur deal that I have seen. It's not so much about the barking on track; it's about staying on the track. We've got some cur dogs. They're going to run it for a certain amount of time, and then they're either going to lose it or they're going to quit. And I used to have some cur dogs that would, like, if it went past a mile, they were just going to come on back. We start another one, and we caught a lot of hogs, a lot. But at the same time, if it's a 350-pound boar hog that I know is there, and I seen him, and we're on his track, and then they quit it after a mile, I get, I'm discouraged. So
Yeah.
if you get that staying power, regardless if they're barking or not, if they're fast enough and they got enough stamina, you'll catch the hog.
Yes, yes, and I agree with that 100%. I mean, if they just won't quit, that hog will eventually get so tired. I have had a 6-hour race that was, I think it was like 20 something miles in the mountains, and I was furious. I was like, this hog has got to be like, he's got to be amazing. And when I get there and I finally catch up to him, because I was always trying to get ahead and leapfrog and try to shoot it at the crossing, and something would happen. Or eventually he got so tired that I caught up to him, gotten where I needed to be, and I was looking through my scope and my rifle, and I saw him, and I was like, "There, go." He's like maybe 150, maybe. 150 pounds. He was walking uphill, and I look at these were my English hounds, my first ones, and these dogs were white and black, and they were red and black. They had been cut up and beat up, and they were walking behind him, just baying him. And he was walking up the hill, and he turned around and he ran down that hill as hard as he could to try to get them dogs, and they ducked and dodged, and I was like, oh, he gonna die.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill that one. I don't like him. Not only did he run my dogs for 6 hours and 20 miles up and down this, he was cutting them as he was going.
Yeah, he was
And
rank.
he was rank. He comes out, and I just give him heck, and I shoot him down, and I was so mad and so happy at the same time.
That's right.
And then I had to let my dogs were exhausted. They like kind of chewed on him a little bit, and then they just sat down, and they had this far away look in their eyes. I was like, are you okay? I was so sad for them. I was like, I'm so sorry. I tried so hard. And that was like a good bonding moment. And like, I killed a whole lot of more hogs with those two dogs. And then they both got killed at 4 years old.
Wow. So we're running that cur dog with your open dogs now. It doesn't bark on track.
No. Even when
there you go.
you raised them up, she was silent. The only time she'd bark is if like it was bayed, and then it would break, and she'd yip a little bit, and then she'd shut up.
Wow.
But other than that, like, if the dog wants to bark, he's going to bark. If he doesn't, he won't. I don't care if it's with an open dog or not. Now, I have seen like more quiet hounds. Like I've had some that were a little tighter on track, run with a very open dog, and they get a little more open. But a lot of the curs I've hunted with, they won't say nothing unless they just want to.
Yeah. Well,
there's a feller that go ahead.
No, go ahead.
There's a feller that I hunt with on occasion. He's 80 years old. He's a cool old man, and he hog hunts, and he's real nice. He's got Airedale hound crosses, and they're kind of tight on track, but when they're open, it kind of sounds like maybe like a hound bulldog cross out there. It's very, very high pitched. But a lot of times they'll be quiet, but if my dog's out there, they'll holler with them. But it just depends on the dog, and I don't know the situation. I think it can be both ways.
Yeah, I do too. Like I said, but there's a lot of people that they don't want to run their silent dog with an open dog or open pack of dogs because they're scared it's going to get to barking. There's times where if we go hunt with somebody and all our dogs are predominantly silent, I'll tell them, like, look, you cast your dogs and hunt them. And then, we'll cast ours, or vice versa, whatever.
Yeah.
And we've hunted them at the same time. But what generally happens is our silent dogs will honor the open dogs, and they'll pull to them. And if they're over there barking on track and there's nothing there, then our dogs eventually they'll quit, and then they'll leave it alone. And after a couple of times, they won't even go to the bark.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. It's just because they haven't been hunted together. But once you hunt them for a while, those silent dogs will realize, hey, this dog over here is running track. He's not baying. And they figure it out. They really do.
I think it really makes cur dogs a little bit better, and especially it teaches them to stay into the race a little bit longer, because they're like, man, these dogs, they're going still. It's not like a whole pack of like quitters together, and then they're like all quit. They like, hey, that other dog's still pushing, I'll push too. I have seen that.
We seen it Sunday. We were hunting with Logan Campbell, and we had Rodney's oldest cur dog, Sally, and she's She's Parker Cur, a little bit of bird dog, a little bulldog. And usually she's good. I mean, she's a great cast dog for a cur for sure. And but now most of the time, if they're in a race, you know, a couple of hours is a long time for our races.
Yeah.
And it was already middle of the day, 100 degrees, and she fell in there with those hound cur crosses. And I think she stuck it for 5 hours. She stayed in there, and she literally ran until she just couldn't run anymore. And she, like I said, she's like 11 years old. And
Bless your heart.
yeah, she came back and her whole face was just, I mean, the briars just wore out. And I was so impressed by how well she did, because it was, I expected her to last about an hour, maybe two. And she ran harder and faster. And that was one of the first times I've ever seen her do that. And I've been hunting with her for years. Yeah. Like you said, so it holds true. It's like it pushes that cur dog to find another gear.
Yeah.
And to stay in the race.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree
really
with
that. And I think that's why a lot of folks who run the hound and cur crosses, they'll figure out what works best for them, whether it's a 50-50 or say 3/4 hound and 1/4 cur, or vice versa.
Yeah. And I mean, I think crossbred dogs are a wonderful thing. I have all the respect in the world for him. I had a mountain cur walker cross, and I sure loved him. He didn't have a long career. He died. I bought him and got him going real good, and then he died of heartworms. It was just man. I was in the mountains, and I noticed he had a cough for like a few weeks, and I was like, I need to get that checked out, and I didn't get it checked out soon enough. He was, I assume what happened was he died from the heartworms in the woods because he had no wound on him. He was coughing a whole lot. That particular day, we're hunting kind of hard, and he just kept lagging, and then he kind of hit a track and went out, and then he started coming back, and I met him in the woods because I was like, he never comes back. And like he just was staggering and walking towards me, and I walked to him, and he lays down, and his gums are just as wide as can be, and he's coughing.
Oh, man.
And he just gives it up, and I was like, dang it. And you know, that was the only mountain cur cross I've ever had, and I sure did like him. But I've seen other hound cur crosses, and I really, really like them. I myself would like to try a few, but I just haven't found the right thing yet.
And that we're doing a little bit of that ourselves. You know, we like I said, we run a lot of cur dogs, but we've got a little bit of running dogs, you know, like some running walker, foxhound.
Oh, okay.
We're, you know, cross them in but I don't know what's going to work best for me. Is it going to be a 50-50, or is it going to be a 1/4 or 1/8 or 16th or what, you know? So that's just one of those time will tell. And, you know, I don't know if it'll work or not. It might not even work. I don't know, but that's just part of it. Always trying to find something to work better.
Yeah, I think the adventure of it is what, you know, really keeps me going. I'm like, what is this next dog going to do? Are we going to have, you know, like what kind of success, what kind of adventure will we go on together? And it doesn't really matter what breed it is, so long as it has the want to. And I mean, like, I picked 2 breeds of dogs that have the big want to. The bulldogs have the diehard want to, and the hounds have that endurance want to. And it's like, you know, I kind of expect that in other dogs. Like if I have a cur dog, I want to get it from a bloodline that has the diehard want to cur dogs, you know. I wouldn't just pick a bloodline that's like, you know, a mild kind of dog and quit it. You know, I want the ones that go 3, 4, 5 hours if they can. You know, people breed for that. But if I'm going to pick a cur dog to get into, I want to pick the more houndy bulldog type cur dogs. You know what I mean? I don't want them rough though, like a bulldog. I just want that diehardness.
That, like I said, that's what we've been traveling, and the past few hunts that we've went on, and that's what they're running. They got hogs that want to run real hard, long races. Yeah. Cody Godwin, we went with him. He dual purposes his too. He runs bear with them, and so you've got dogs that are running bear and hogs for long races, and they work. We went with Henry Williams. Henry's dogs, we had a 5-hour race, and it was well over 100. I mean, it was so hot. It was ridiculous. And we jumped that hog at 6:30 that morning. I think we caught him at, what was it, 1 o'clock? Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I mean, we ran all over the county, and that hog was about 180.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was just fast.
Little athlete.
And like you said, and then we went with Logan Campbell. Logan's dogs, if you look at them, the coloring and stuff looks like a cur dog. But if you look at them, they have a hound style build.
Yeah.
You know, and those dogs, I will be honest, we were running at 4 o'clock the other afternoon. We ran from 9 o'clock that morning. This was Sunday. And we were in South Mississippi, right there at the Louisiana line. We ran from like 9:30 when we got that one jumped. And we ran till an hour before dark. And them dogs never slacked up. I mean, you had to go run them down. So you're looking at what, 7 hours, 6, 7 hours in the heat. And it was so dry. So I was like, yeah, these right here will definitely, that's a different kind of dog.
Yeah,
You know,
that's the kind of dog I like. I want one that don't want to quit. Like and that's a hound most of the time. I admire that about a hound. So that's the kind of stuff I look for.
I got
the ones that just go to the bitter end.
Yeah. And that's the way every one of these have been. All those people that I just talked about, their dogs that's the style dog they're running. And like I said, now our cur dogs, they'll get in there and hang in there as good or better than most any cur dog would, but it's still not the same as having that hound in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where we jumped that hog Sunday, our dogs had went through there and hunted that whole block. And I could tell, I told whoever was standing there close to us, I was like, there's something there. It's just not quite enough. Or Sally's nose just wasn't quite there. You could tell she wanted to run it. Yeah. And she worked and worked and worked. And we put Funny Girl, I think it was, Logan's dog, and it took her and Duck, it took about 10, 15 more minutes, and they got it up. They struck it in and carried that son of a gun for a ride. I mean,
well, that's something I look for in my hounds too. Like a lot of, like in the coon dog world, you like English, blue tick, black and tan, red bone, and then the walkers. Everyone likes the walkers these days because they're like wham, bam, get it done, treed super fast. But I myself, when I look at hounds, I really like that cold nose power. And a lot of people don't really like it. They're, call them hollow wallowers and this, that, and the other. But you know how many hogs that I have found that, like, if they're working a track and I'm like, yeah, they can figure this out, I'll leave them and go do something else and, maybe get a different race started. And by the time I come back, they'll be bayed. And I've got me a beautiful big boar hog just waiting on me. It's, if you just give them time, you could have a really nice hog. And then sometimes, they can't figure it out and they'll stay down there. And I'm like, okay, that was 10 days ago. Stop it. And stuff like that. But then there's like, I've more often than not, I've let them just work it and they'll pull a hog out of thin air. And then like the other dogs didn't find squat the rest of the day. It's just, I really admire a cold-nosed dog that will drive a track till they produce an animal. And then there's the the drawback of having it never come to anything and you wasted all that time and precious temperatures, especially in the summer.
Yeah. That and now, do you have a lot of big properties that you hunt? Or
I have to.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So you'd have to have them because having dogs like that, you got to have the room.
Yes, and if I don't have properties like that, I'll usually invite someone that's got dogs that are smaller like that. So, like that old man I was mentioning, like his dogs, it's a wham bam kind of thing. Like they are super super fast, and it's not near as cold tracking. So, like if the hog's there, they'll probably get it stopped before the land runs out. Whereas mine, if that hog went through that property, but they're over 2 properties over, I'll be bayed on 2 properties over.
Okay. And
so
that's one reason we don't run a cold nosed dog here is because, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, for sure, we had a lot bigger properties, and they've all got bought up and divided into smaller sections.
Yeah.
1,000 acres or less on a lot of them, and that's tough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, depending on where you're at, hunt the kind of dogs that best suit you. Like if you have to have small property, then small type dogs. Like before I got all the land that I have now, them run and catch dogs did a great job. I'd be hunting 100 acres and I'd be done and caught hogs or not caught hogs, and I wouldn't be bothering nobody else or, And when I started getting more land and walking became really a pain in the butt, I was like, I'm going to try something else. And that's where the hounds became. And then I realized, I was like, Lord mercy, I need at least 1,200 acres.
Yeah. That's like I said, that's the only drawback that I see for some people, because like I said, I've had people, they want like a real deep cast, long range dog. And we've showed up to go hunt and they've got 600 acres. And I'm like, oh, that's not going to work at all. And then again, we've showed up to where they had 6,000 acres and there were so many hogs there. All you needed was a good bulldog.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, we don't need no cast dog. We can catch them right here.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. South Arkansas is like that. Huge country, freaking hogs everywhere. And I'm like, I'll leave the hounds at home because they'll be babbling on track 10,000 directions. And I'm like, let's just kick out some bulldogs and have a big time.
There you go. I wish more people would think like that.
Well, you really have to be flexible or you'll never get anywhere in life, and you'll never get your have a really good time is what I'm trying to say. You'll never have a good time if you're always just like scrutinizing or stuck in your way. You'll just be in the same rut forever and ever and ever. And if you don't get out of the rut, you don't ever get to experience new things. You got to open your mind. You got to be accepting of other people and how the way they hunt and do things. It may not be the way I do things, and we don't have to hunt together after the first time.
That's right.
But I got to meet you. We got to hunt. I got to see, maybe learn new things. I'm open to learning all the things. Like I want to know more about curs. I just need to find somebody with some good ones. No offense.
Yeah, no,
I've seen some good ones. Don't get me wrong, but I just like, man, would they make it in my kind of country or blah 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 blah. And like, and I went to Louisiana with Blake Werner and his Catahoula dogs in the swamplands where they would ride boats and drop them off on little islands. I'm like, this is awesome. These are awesome dogs for this kind of country. I don't really want my hounds in there because I don't think they would be athletic enough to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Kind of situation. But
and a lot of those, and like I said, I try to be very careful on what I say too, because I don't want to make nobody mad or hurt their feelings. But like you said, if you can just do that little run and gun stuff, I mean, you don't have to have those super big power dogs. Big country dogs is what I'm talking about. You can get a good bulldog, like you said, and have a damn good time.
Yeah. Well, and like, I mean, that's another reason why, I might narrow my friend group. Like I'll branch out and try somebody and then I'll narrow it back down, because if they're not willing to like accept like, hey, your dog beat mine and like be sourpuss about it the whole time, I don't really want to hunt with you again.
Yeah.
But they, there's some people that are really good at, getting along no matter whose dog found the hog or whatever. And it really shouldn't be competitive when we're all hunting together.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I want to have fun. I want to see your dog win. I want to see my dog win. I don't want to see anyone dog get cut up. We're in it to win it. We're not in it to beat each other up or be selfish.
Yeah, exactly. That's why me and Rodney hunt together now. I changed my whole style of hunting. Changed my dogs up. Took a few years to do it, but the reason was we were at a hunt together. Another guy had invited both of us to be there, and me and him got in an argument. Me and Rodney did. First time we met each other, and the argument was I was talking about how well his Sally dog had struck that hog and was running it. And he said, no, she didn't do that. And I said, well, yeah, I was sitting right here. He said, no, she picked it up. He said, that leopard dog down there, that colored up dog, jumped the hog back down the creek and brought it up here, and they ran into each other. He said, and then that leopard dog headed the other way, running another hog. So the leopard dog was mine, and the Sally dog is his. I'm arguing with him, telling him how good his dog is. He's arguing with me, telling me, no, your dog's better. And we had never met each other. So I said, you know what? This is ridiculous. And when we wound up killing the hog and went and got his dogs caught up, we went and got mine. And I think we wound up catching 2 or 3 more real good boar hogs. And that old Bella dog I had, she was a solid dog. Now she was good. And we ran them together for years. But that's why we hunted together, is because it wasn't about, well, my dog did this. It was all our dogs were hunting.
Yeah.
And now, don't get me wrong, there was days where I was like, yeah, that old Sally smoked all of them, and that's his dog. And then there was plenty of days where I was sitting there kind of smiling to myself saying, yeah, old Bella put it on him today. But we never brought all that out. It was never a competition.
Yeah.
And it's still like that today. And it's so hard to find that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we can all agree, like, your dogs did awesome today, or my dogs did awesome today, that's great. But whenever you like try to pick it apart and be like, well, your dogs know the country better, or your dogs do this or this or that, and I'm like, well, you drove around and spooked the hog my dog was on, and I pay very close attention to the Garmin. I read that Garmin super, super good, and I know what direction the dogs are going. And I'm like, if I'm close to so-and-so's dog, I will pay attention to what I'm doing so I don't divert the hog or mess anything up. I don't want to pull that dog to my four-wheeler or anything like that. So it's just like when people start picking it gets on my nerves. There's no need for that.
We had a young guy, and he hadn't been hunting very long, and he had a pretty good little old dog starting out. But every time we would catch a hog, first thing you say was, whose dog was there first? I'm like, I don't know.
Oh gosh.
And I mean, now keep in mind, we were having a ball. Like we did. First thing we said was, we're gonna let 2 dogs go, and we're not gonna dump the box. And what
I'm like,
happened.
Dump the box.
Yes, we dumped the damn. There was 20 head of dogs, all different shapes. They're going everywhere. And but now, in all honesty, I think all of them were cur dogs of some kind. So, except for Oscar, my little jag that I had. Well, he's not little; he's a big jag. But anyway, so we just had a good time. But every time we catch a hog, and I know that he didn't mean it as a competition. He was genuinely.
He just wanted to know.
He just wanted to know, but you know how other people took it. They're like, well, man, this ain't a competition. And all it was is he was just really wanting his dog to be the dog that was, at the top. And we all want that.
Yeah.
But when you're hunting with guys like Kevin Brooks, Carter Schultz, Ryan Rankin, Rodney Bell, me and Nate, with dogs, the kind of dogs that we have, and we ain't done nothing to them but feed them. We just got lucky. You better have your boots tied up tight to have a dog that can outrun all them.
Yeah. That reminds me of a hunt that I went with Mr. Ed Barnes, the old man. He lives near me. His name's Ed Barnes, just like the other Ed Barnes, which is funny.
Well, the other Ed Barnes is an old man too. He just doesn't. His age doesn't know it.
His age don't know. Well,
it is 140 years old at heart.
Well, this old Ed Barnes that lives in Arkansas, we every now and then, like, I'll have one of them old hounds that is just like, I'm like, that track your dogs can't smell, but that's okay. When she jumps it, we're gonna put the speed demons on it, and it works out great because like Ed's all giving me like the side eye, like, your dogs are fooling around on that track. I'm like, I point at him like, Ed, you just let them fix it. They'll line it out, and then your dogs that are standing here at the four-wheeler, then they can run it down and go stop it for us.
There you go. And
we'll just tease each other like that. And he'll be like, Cody, them dogs is just trashing. I'm like, no, they're not. You give them a minute. and sure enough, and then sometimes, like, I've let them cold trail for a couple hours, and we'll drive around looking for fresher hog sign. And as soon as I see that dog kick it up and go faster, I'm like, all right, Ed, let's put the speed demons on it. And they do it every time. They'll hit that where that dog is going, when that track is where they could smell it. They'll run it down and bay it long before mine never do.
And
that's
that's
kind of how it works sometimes.
Yeah, that's part of knowing. First off, knowing your dogs, so that way you
Mm-hmm.
know what to look for on that Garmin. Then knowing your
Mm-hmm.
Garmin and what it is, and then knowing the person that you're hunting with and their dogs.
Yep,
it's a combined effort.
We're in it to win it. We're not in it to just beat the other person.
That's a hard thing to find nowadays for sure. It used to be. I'm sure it's probably been the same way forever, but when I first started hunting, we would have big hunts, a lot of people on them, everybody had their own pack of dogs and we'd all get together and go hunt, had a good time. And then it's like everything kind of fizzled out. Then it got to be where it was a competition. And that just, I don't know, man, that gets old.
Yeah. Well, another thing that I've noticed about people is, we don't all start out in our hunting experiences knowing everything. But when we're young and dumb, we think we know everything, and we think that, well, my way's the best way, or this way or that. And sometimes people never grow out of that, and sometimes people get better over time, and their personalities change and you become a better person overall. But like, let's just say you hunted with somebody and they'll always remember you as a 21-year-old and never as like a 40-year-old. Like, oh, they were such a pain in the butt as a 21-year-old. They thought their dogs were the cheese and crackers of it all. And at 40-year-old, you're like, at 21, I didn't know squat. And my dogs were not as good as this person's dogs, or as good as the dogs that I have now. And some people don't give you room to grow, and then there's some people that never grow. I think people need to always look at each other as an opportunity to grow from past experiences. And if they always are the same person, no matter how old they get, then that's okay. That's just who they are.
I was taught sometimes you just got to love them for who they are.
Yep. Yeah.
And you can love them from afar.
Yeah. I would love you from afar. I'd be like, those are great hogs, great pictures. Your dogs look great. Yeah, you look great.
Did good.
Yeah. You did good.
Like, when we going to go hunting? Like, oh man, I'm so busy. I don't know.
And me, I'm all about meeting new people and, hunting new places, learning new things. And like, sometimes it takes several attempts for me to come hunting with somebody. It's just like, I got to feel you out. I got to know who you are. And it's just, kind of being a woman thing. I want to make sure you're safe.
Yeah. It's got to be for the right reasons.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to be like, hey girl, come out here and hunt with me. And after that, we can go for drinks. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm never coming hunting with you ever.
Listen, I have that problem all the time when I go hunting. They're like, hey.
Oh, them guys are like, let's go get drinks.
Yeah, it's like, let's go get drunk. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. They're like, I don't want to do this, but I'll do it. No, actually, I'm pretty good about the not drinking thing now. That, like you said, that 21-year-old, that 21-year-old Joey would have been drunk and passed out somewhere, and now it's like, I really don't drink that much. I just feel real bad the next day. So, but I don't hold that against anyone at all. I mean, if you want to have a good time, hey, shit, wear it out.
Yeah, I don't mind what you do, because I am strong enough to be like, I'm not doing it, but I'll watch you.
That's right. Oh, and it's a great thing to watch.
It is.
It is great. I watched this particular 23-year-old young man this past weekend pull him a good one, and he
into the drunkenness.
Yeah, I said
into the drunkenness.
Tell him the full story when I came in there.
So him and Logan had been up all night.
We drank half a gallon of whiskey.
Yeah, and now keep in mind, Nate,
I drank.
He doesn't drink very seldom, honestly.
Yeah, maybe 6 beers in a month, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
And so, like I said, he's grown and married, and that was the first time I ever tucked him in. So, and it was 4:00, and I was like, damn, y'all are up already? Listen, I'm ready to go, you know? And he was just kind of standing there. And I said, Nate, what are you doing? He was like, I'm trying to find them dogs. I said, what? So we're in the bunkhouse, and Rodney's on the bottom bunk. I'm on the top bunk. Nate is leaned against the bunk bed, and he's kind of looking out I thought he was looking out the window, and you could hear a noise. And I was like, the dogs aren't barking. He's like, I can hear them dogs. And it was Rodney snoring.
Oh, no.
Rodney was snoring, and then he was coughing at the same time. And it literally sounded like a good bathe there for a minute. And I said, Nate, that's Rodney. He's snoring. Nate was like, it's them houndy curs. I said, what are you talking about?
It's them dadgum houndy curs.
That's exactly what he said that 3 times. He said, damn. I said, Logan Campbell has messed your mind up. And then I realized, I was like, no, he's messed his own mind up by that Jim Beam.
That old Charter number 8.
Yeah, old Charter. Yeah, they were drinking old Charter. And I get down off the bunk, and I was like, he kept going back towards the wall. I said, where are you going? He said, well, I'm going into the drunkenness. And I said, son, you're already in the drunkenness. I said, come on, let's get over here. And there was a mattress laying on the floor under the bunks and the middle bunk. And I said, well, just lean down and crawl on that mattress on the floor. And he went to lean over, and he almost fell. And he looked at me, and he patted that mattress in the middle. He said, this is the one right here. This is the one. And so I let everybody sleep in. And at 5:30, I start waking everybody up. And it wasn't just Nate and Logan that stayed up. I think everybody except for me and Rodney.
Yeah.
And it was, so we get to Logan's house the next morning, and there's a caravan of people just lined up out there. And everybody's like, can't get Logan up.
I was like, I don't know why.
And Logan got up, and he came outside, and I asked, like, you okay? He's like, I'm still asleep. I don't know. I was like, okay, this is going to be a good day. And we had a long day. Yes. A long, long day. So, but like I said, it's something fun to watch, because I had a good time watching them until, I don't know, probably 11 o'clock, midnight maybe. And I was like, I got to go to bed. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm old. I can't handle this.
I thought I was going to go to bed, and I was like, I'm sitting on the picnic table talking to Logan, and then I wake up and I'm in the bunk bed, and I'm like, that's not good.
But I will say this, I did have to call his name twice to say, hey, let's get up. On an hour and a half sleep. And he got up, laced the boots up, had the dogs loaded, and we took off. So, hey, if you're going to play, you got to pay.
That is correct. I've had many a late night hunting my hounds, and I'd hunt from daylight till the next daylight, and then I had to go to work, and I was just like, I don't know why I do this.
Yeah, it makes you rethink
but I love
it.
it at the same time.
Yeah. It's one of those. So do you predominantly hunt by yourself, or do you got a group that you go with? I know you said you had an older gentleman that you go with.
I mostly go by myself, but I will have like maybe 1 or 2 people go. I don't really like group hunting. I like 2 dogmen, maybe 3 dogmen. But like if there's 3 dogmen there and all 3 of us have dogs, I think it's more intelligent to spread out and like catch as many hogs as we possibly can instead of all of us and our dogs wadded up on each other.
Yeah.
That's how I like to hunt.
Okay, I got you. So what kind of rig do you hunt out of? Or what do y'all hunt from?
I got a 4-wheeler, and I'll cruise around either the road or trails or this, that, or the other. That's how most of the other people I hunt with. And then there's some people that drive around in like small trucks or little SUV type things, and they'll find fresh track and dump their hounds on the track. And whereas I'm kind of hunt more like I did my bulldogs, I'll either walk hunt or ride around on the 4-wheeler, and they'll kind of stick with the 4-wheeler until they hit a track. I guess more like a cur dog hunter would, and the other people drive around and try to find fresh sign and dump on that, or cast out into a holler or something like that. I just like doing my 4-wheeler thing. Like that's just how I've always hunted.
I got you. That's cool. So you take a lot of kids hunting with you, or I know you said you take your daughter.
Yep, I do take a lot of kids, all ages and stuff like that. I took my daughter since she was little bitty. And I've taken kids since they were 9 years old. That girl Lizzie, I took a long time. She was 9 all the way to 16, almost 16 years old, and then she kind of got out of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's really fun. Some kids really like it, and some kids really don't care for it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, hey man, you tried it. That's the best approach in life. You try it. If you don't like it, you ain't got to do it no more.
That's right. And
And
that's the best
and
way for a kid.
yeah, and a lot of times it really helps kids understand like why dogs are the way they are. Like my dog Frou Frou at home is so hyper and so crazy, and I'm like, well, if your dog has a job, it probably would help calm them down. So like seeing these, and then when they go on that, the dogs don't bother them. The dogs are really, respectful, and they have manners, and then they get all their energy out, and then they sleep the rest of the time. They're like, wow, the dogs are far different than my home dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, maybe you should take your little frou frou dog out and let it be a dog. And I'm really big on that. Like, if your dog is a problem dog at home, maybe try your best to let it be a dog and get some of that energy out, and then people wouldn't, have such problems. But that's a whole different topic.
Oh well, no, I mean that's 100%. That's actually a topic that the hunting world never really addresses, but we see it more than anybody because we either have had those little foo-foo dogs, we know somebody that has them, and we also have the hunting dog, so we know what it takes to disperse that energy.
Yeah,
and to keep a dog busy. And if more hunters would maybe get involved in the narrative of that, not arguing about it, but just saying, hey, this works.
Yeah, well, I mean, and a lot of people, when they get their home dogs, they get the most outrageous breeds. They'll get a Catahoula dog, they'll get a Border Collie, they'll get a hunting bred lab instead of more couch bred lab. They'll get dogs that are just high octane, and then they're mad at them or just discredit the breed altogether. And I'm like, well, you really need to do your research, and if you want this dog, you really need to be dedicated to it. I mean, it's like, I just feel like people buy into that fad, whatever's hot in the topic or whatever. And even your more laid back type dogs, they still need a little bit of exercise. And some people are very particular on chain versus pin.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't take them off the chain or out of the pen, it's cruel in my eyes both ways.
Yes.
If all your dog does is sit there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, you're not doing anybody a favor in a chain or on a chain or in a pen.
It's tough. I retired one of my old dogs, and
that's tough.
Well, I mean, he got his jaw broke straight down the middle and sideways.
Oh.
Yeah, and he was already a 6-year-old then. So he was actually prime time,
Yeah.
He's a run and catch dog. And I mean, that's his job. He's not going to bay anything. He's not going to bark at it. So there's really nothing else. And I literally walk by and look at him in his kennel, and I feel so bad.
Yeah.
Because it's like I put him in prison is the way I feel. But I did it to preserve his life. But at the same time, am I giving him a life sentence?
Yeah. Well, I did that one time with my red dog that I talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I put him on retirement, and like he was miserable, and I was like, you know what? He worked his whole life with me, and now he watches me walk past him all the time now, and it just makes me so sad.
Mm-hmm.
So I started taking him, and then I was 5 months pregnant. The first day of January, I think it was 2023. No, it wasn't 2022. It was 2021. Yeah, it's 2021. I was 5 months pregnant. First day of January, and it was at night. And him and my other 18 dog, they both got killed. And I still feel like it was because I was so dang pregnant. I couldn't get there in time. I never found Red. His tracking unit got ripped off. and he was no quitter. And he was one of them bulldogs that would run miles. I never found him, and the other dog had his stomach pulled out through his flank, and I was just crushed. I lost my 8-year-old first hog dog and my 4-year-old super good hound in the same night, and I was just like, it's because I'm so freaking pregnant. I couldn't get there in time, and I like beat myself up the rest of the time about it, because like and hunting while pregnant, I will assure you, is the most difficult time I've ever had hunting.
I couldn't imagine that. I mean, yeah, that's yeah. I there's nothing. Well, that's the first time I guess I'm speechless, because I don't know what to say, because I'd be like, whoa, yeah, this or that. No, I don't know.
Maybe like big beer belly, maybe like a really big heavy beer belly, maybe.
Rodney. Rodney's got a shed. It's not a belly, it's a shed. That's my little buddy.
No.
So Rodney might be which I'm no Slim Jim my damn self at all. But
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I couldn't imagine. I mean, just the whole thing of being pregnant.
Yeah.
Period. And
yeah, it's definitely hard, because like I would be so bedridden some days, and the next days I would be I'm gonna go hunting, and then I would just exhaust myself. It was very up and down being pregnant, because like a lot of times some women get anemic and stuff like that. I threw up a lot, so there'd be times I'd be hunting and I'd just be like, rah, and just start throwing up. And I'm like,
Lord.
I want to go home. But like my dogs would be 6 miles away, and I'm like, no.
Wow. That's
I was beyond dedicated. I'm still dedicated. I just like, I look back at it and I'm like, man, that was so hard, because not being pregnant, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can do so much more.
No, that's still just it. I don't know. It amazes me, because I don't know any women that would really hunt while they're pregnant. Which, like I said, I know quite a few ladies that hunt, and that they're real deal. They hunt.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just tagging along and getting Facebook pictures. They're running dogs of their own. But there's not a lot of them that I know that are that dedicated. And if they are, I mean, I'm not saying that they're not out there. I'm just saying that I know, or they haven't had to go through that yet. Because, I mean, like, I know a couple that I guarantee you it wouldn't matter if they were pregnant or not, they're going to go. But that has to be, like I said, that has to be so freaking hard. Just, seeing my wife being pregnant, and not running the damn hog dog down. I don't know, dude. I'm so glad she didn't want to go. I'm glad, because she would have really hated me more.
Yeah. Well, like when I was pregnant, my daughter's dad never went with me, and he never cared to help me with any of the dogs. I had to load, unload. I'd stab hogs. I'd drag hogs to the truck. I did all of it by myself, and there was times though I was just like, I am retarded. I've got to be retarded for being this dedicated, and I would get mad at myself. But like that night though that those 2 dogs died, I really tore myself up because I was pregnant. I was like, I shouldn't even be out here. I should have waited, or I shouldn't have even took Red. But he was so happy when I started taking him again. I was like, yeah, this is just like old times. And like one of the hunts before he got killed, he swam Black River, which Black River where I'm at is wide and it's dangerous, and I won't get in it, not even if I'm not pregnant. But he swam Black River. He was caught on the other side of Black River. I was pregnant, and I was looking at it, and I was like, I can do this. So I took my 243. He was caught on the other side. He was white, so I could see him in my scope, and the big sow was black. And I took aim as far back on her rib cage as I could, and I shot her while he was caught on her across the river. It was about a 230-yard shot. Damn. And I killed her. She fell in the water. Red fought her for a little bit, but he was smart. He's like, she's dead. So he got back on the river, and he was looking at her in the water, kind of floating down the river, and I called him back across, and like he swam back. Like that was my ultimate awesome dog. And like, when he died, I was just tore smooth up about it.
Oh, I could imagine that. That's sounds like he had a good handle on him too. I mean,
he was very, very good. But shoot, he made it to 8. that was a long time for a running catch dog.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. We lost two summers ago now. One of them was 9, one of them was 7, and I'll be honest with you, like we very seldom ever had to put a staple in them or anything. They were smart. They knew what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And but like you said, when you lose one like that, it's so hard to get another one.
Yes, Lord.
It just seems like it's no matter how hard you try, it's like, man, are they going to make it there? Or are they going to be that caliber of a dog?
I've never had another red. I've had dogs that were good, but never have I had another red. And I've never had another Mina or Chow, and those were my first 2 hounds. And those were their Mina's son came dang close, and he died at 3. But he was, I've never had that caliber of a dog after red, and it makes it really sad. You look back and I'm like, man, he was like the one dog.
Yeah. Now, with doing all this long, I mean, it seems like most hunters that I've met, all of them have kind of like their little specialty, whether it's putting a handle on a dog, or starting puppies, or raising puppies, or just being able to pick out a good dog, or healthcare, or just general knowledge. What would you say your kind of forte is? Your specialty in this? Is it like healthcare? General maintenance of a dog, or
I'm very particular. I like my waters cleaned once a week. I pick up my chain spots or the kennels every other day. I am particular about that. I used to be like really strict on worming, but now I kind of look at them like I switch up the worming. I do it, I don't use the same thing over and over. I rotate my wormer, and I just kind of do it when I feel like they need it, or this, that, or the other. But I used to be like very strict on it. I followed a schedule, and I did every other month, and but now I'm a lot more loose on that, and my dogs are in great condition. I use Brevecto mostly because, and I also don't really like a lot of chemicals. Like that's why I've used up on the worming and stuff. I try to do less chemicals. But Mina, Chow, and Red, which were my 3 best dogs, they all had Ehrlichia, or however you say it.
Yeah, Ehrlichia.
And and there was some days that I was just like looking at them, and I was just like, they are miserable because they're so sick. And so that's when I was like, you know what? I got to do something to help these dogs. They give me 100. I got to spend 100. I got to help them 100. So I started Brevecto, and I only do it when I see ticks, and then when I know the ticks are gone. And then the rest of the time, I don't give them squat chemical wise.
I got you.
And like when I raise puppies, I have been told that I raise them so good it should be illegal because they'll be like hippo fat. But I want them to be healthy little boogers, and I want them to grow up, and they'll never be, I never want them to be stunted in any way. But I don't know if what I'm really good at. I don't really like puppies because they're so much work, and when they're little tiny and their mom's raising them, it's not so bad. But when I have to start raising them and taking care of all their needs, and they're just poopy everywhere and they're noisy, and I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and I try to raise maybe 1 or 2 litters every 1 or 2 years. It just kind of depends what I need, but I do give them 100%. I give them 100% of my money and effort to make sure they're healthy and functioning, so that they have the best chance to be successful. Now, if they are super healthy and they don't want to hit a lick, I will not keep that dog on the yard whatsoever. You have to, if I'm going to give you 100, you have to give me 100, kind of exchange.
No, and that's a good way to look at it. We've got a couple right now that we have give several chances to, and it's like deep down inside, you already know what the answer is. It's like, why are we beating around the bush? And that's something that I guess we've got to where we really try to pay attention to is how hard does a dog keep? If you got a dog that's a real hard, and a lot of these cur dogs, they're hard keepers. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing, at least the ones that we've been around, you know, or that we've had.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen some that were real easy keepers, but a lot of them are tough, and that gets old. It really does. And it's like, you know, even though the dog does a good job, it's a good solid dog. I mean, do you want to have to fight with keeping a dog where it looks like it's run down all the time?
Yeah.
You know,
It's a fine line. Like a dog that's a hard keeper, it just depends on, for me, like what they do. Like, do they run their chain all day? Do they dig holes all day? Do they tear up their buckets or move their houses around? Like, I don't allow my dogs to bark on the yard for no reason. Like, I want a quiet yard. If there's something serious going on, that's the only time you need to bark. And that way I know what's going on. Like, if they just bark constantly and I just ignore it, you know, what if something serious is going on outside, like my daughter's hurt or something like that? Yep. I keep a quiet yard, and I keep not any destructive dogs. Like, I'll usually try to break them of it, like a little training, like shocking them or something like that. Or like, I'll even try to like stake their houses or water bowls to the ground. And if they just continue to drive me insane, I move them on down the road. Like, I don't want to be miserable owning a dog.
Yeah. And we've had a few that were like that were just destructive, crazy. And it gets old real quick.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it seems like no matter what, all they're doing is wasting time and energy.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Tearing shit up. And it's like, why are you doing this? Because
yeah.
Tell them about Rook. This is a good example.
I have a dog named Rook.
Just run 24/7. It didn't matter. Day or night, rain, sleet, snow, 100 degrees, 5 degrees. He was going to be running non-stop.
Except when you turn him loose.
Oh, yeah, then he'd just stand there and look at you.
You turn him loose.
Oh, no.
And he would literally go lay down.
Oh, no.
Yes,
no.
he would go lay down. Yeah.
Oh, no.
And at first I was like, well, we didn't raise him, first off, you know, so I was like, well, maybe it's me.
Yeah,
maybe it's us.
Maybe you don't like us.
Maybe you don't like, you know, whatever. So I had another guy that was interested in him. He's like, man, I really want to get that dog. I was like, well, come get him. I said, he'll clear your chain spot out. And it wasn't but about 2 weeks. And he was like, hey, I don't know what to do. I was like, oh, yeah, you do. You know exactly what to do. I said, you know, he needs to just
move on down the
road.
Move on down the road. Yep.
And that's exactly what pretty much happened. And you can give them so many times, but I don't know. It just seems like they either have it or they don't. And I know some dogs start a lot later.
Yeah.
But generally, you'll see something in that pup that you're like, he's going to do it.
Yeah.
You know, sooner or later. But when you get those that just, there's nothing there, it's like, man, this is just a waste of time.
Yep.
So what kind of tips or tricks do you have for like starting pups in the woods?
Well, you know, I've always had bay pens, and I always started all my dogs in bay pens. And it's just kind of like how I was introduced to it. Like, that's how the people that I met, and they showed me what they did. And then I got, when I had my daughter just 3 years ago, I got rid of my hogs because they were super, super friendly, but they were big. And I was just like, you know, the little baby go out there and stick their fingers through the fence, they're going to get nipped off. And, you know, I just didn't want to take no chances. So I got rid of my hogs. And so for the last 3 years, I haven't had hogs in a pen, and I put all my dogs straight into the woods. And it seems to be working for me so far. The dogs do fine. Some of them are a little bit more taken back because of, like, you know, the game that we picked was a little bit more violent. And then I guess, you know, then like getting slowly introduced to it in the pen. Like, that was how I was taught up. So for like 10 years, I did penned introduction. And then for the last 3 years, I've done woods introduction. And in the last 3 years, I have only had 2 young dogs that I put in the woods like that. And they're doing good. The first time he ever bait a sounder, he got freaking stomped. And it took him 2 more hunts after that before he built confidence back up. And then I got low on money, and a guy that knew about him offered me $2,000 for him, and he was just barely over a year old, and he was fantastic. And I was just like, I really need the money, and he offered me stupid money for that dog, and I called him the other day, and I was just like, "Do you want your money back?" And he's like, "No, I love him." And I was very sad about that. But that dog started in the woods, and the first sounder he ever got, whooped him, and it messed him up for a couple hunts. And what the guy that bought him, he told me a trick that he does, and I apply it now, is I do 11 hunts on a young dog before I make a decision. And that doesn't mean, that means like 11 hunts altogether. Like, I don't count just the ones that he does get on hogs or see a hog. Yeah. Like, each hunt, we may not always get on hog, or each hunt we might not catch the hog we chase, but I want to see some type of improvement each hunt. And by the 11th hunt, I make a decision. And usually by 11 hunts, unless you hunt like 11 days a week, 11 days straight, which I hunt 1 or 2 days a week, sometimes more than that. During the summer, it really just depends on the weather.
Yeah, that's us. We would love to hunt more, but like in reality, 1 or 2 hunts a week.
Yeah.
That's
especially with working like a full-time job and whatnot. But 1 or 2 nights a week, and then like whenever it's the best time to hunt, I'll try to hunt more than that. It just kind of depends on if I got the funds for it and all that stuff. But it's 11 hunts is what I've kind of gotten into the groove of doing, and it seems to work really well for me. I don't know if it'll work for everybody, but it works good for me and for that guy.
I was trying to think. Somebody else told us something very similar. I don't think it was 11 hunts, though. Who was that, Nate, we were talking about? Was it Logan?
Yeah, I want to say it was Logan. He was like 5 hunts.
Yeah.
Talking about just overall consistency.
That's exactly right. And the reason I say why it seemed like it was so distant is because we just did it. We literally just talked. And, yeah, like Nate said, I think he said it was like 5 or 7 hunts. And he had to see progression each time.
Uh-huh.
And if it didn't, then, hey, it ain't going to go. It ain't going to work.
Yep.
So there seems to be something with that, because like I said, he's got some really powerful dogs, and there wasn't a dog out there that I sure wouldn't feed. I promise you. So 11 hunts, that might be something that I would incorporate, because I'm more like that. I like to give them a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I want to see willingness to be handled. Like, I don't like a skittish dog. Like, if I have to chase you down, I hate that. So, like, if I have to chase you down out of 6 hunts, you may not make it to 11.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Rodney
if you are a
loves
dog fighter. Oh, no.
Oh, I'm talking about the more the longer it takes to catch it, the more he wants that dog.
Like, he can have it.
And that's what I was like. I said, you know what? I'm just not into that at all. So, but he loves it.
Dog fighting, that's a big no-no for me. It'll be even less hunts. Like, if I can't get you to cooperate, or if you're always walking around with a stiff tail, I won't have that at all. Absolutely no human aggression. The first ounce of it, you're gone. There are limits, but 11, I want to see improvement every time and whatnot. So.
I think that's a good number. Like 11. I'm serious.
It's an odd number.
Well, yeah.
Can't make it even. Got to be a little odd.
Well, yeah. It kind of caught me at first, but I was like, maybe it's 10 hunts and the first one don't even count. That's the way we do it.
It'd be a tiebreaker.
Well,
yeah, it might be a
tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say this. I had a dog make it to the 10th hunt, and I was like, next hunt, you are out of here, Missy. And the next hunt, fantastic, and was fantastic from there on out. And I was like, ain't no way she made it 10 and then fixed herself at 11. I was kind of like, that was just ridiculous. But it worked.
I messaged Tracy a while ago.
Oh, no.
I told her like because look, I'm telling you, I'm scared she's going to hit me.
She's going to get you.
Yeah, she's tough, man. I'm telling you, she is. I'm scared of her. But anyway, I messaged her and told her that we were interviewing, and I messaged her like 4 minutes ago, and I was like, "Hey, you got anything you want me to ask while we're on here talking?" And she literally said, "How do you go about starting your young dogs in the woods?" And that's what I just asked you. Yeah, like she literally just messaged me that. So I was like, well, at least we're, that's what I was thinking of anyway. So
Yeah,
Tracy, when you listen to this, just know that I already knew.
I knew in my mind.
That's it.
Telepathically.
And that's what she said, like, setting them up for success and fresh sign, or sending them with your hounds, with your older dogs.
Yeah. I don't necessarily, I just let them learn from the older dogs,
Mm-hmm.
and I just hunt them the way I just hunt. I don't try to set them up or anything. Now, like, if the hounds leave and I know it's getting serious, I know that dog is not gonna, like, let's say that they're trying out there, like maybe 300-400 yards from where I'm at,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to trail that dog, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna bay soon. I will run out there, go get that young dog, take it to the four-wheeler, and then leap it up to the bay. That's the kind of setup that I'll do. I try to help them along like that. I will try to bring them to the bay if I know that they won't make it, because I do want them to understand what we're doing.
Oh, yeah.
But not always do I put them directly in fresh sign, because even then, like a young dog, like, oh, I smell something,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't know that's what the game we're getting. But if I send them to that dog that's already got hammered down, they're like, oh, okay, this is what the big dog's doing.
Yeah.
That's about the only time that I really will help a young dog, is if I know it's not going to make the bay.
Now, do you keep your dogs on a chain, or in a kennel, or a little of both, or?
I mostly prefer a chain.
Mm-hmm.
I can walk up to them and there's not a barrier between us.
Yeah.
And if they jump on the kennel, they'll flick poopy, pee-pee,
Yes.
water on me, and it drives me nuts. I do like the chain for older dogs. Now, when it comes to raising puppies, I like concrete above ground. That way I can keep them clean and wormed out and all that stuff. And then I rotate them to pens on the ground, and then I rotate them to a chain. Wounded, pregnant, sick, all go in kennels, stuff like that.
How many head of dogs do you have? Or do you
Right now, I used to keep quite a few. I'd keep at least like anywhere from 12 to 16.
Mm-hmm.
But now I keep, like, I don't know, 5 to 8. It just kind of depends. Here lately, I've been building a house for my daughter and I with my dad. My dad's got stage 4 cancer, and he's been going through chemo, and we've been building this house together. It's been quite the father-daughter bonding experience, and it's like really, really bittersweet, because they gave him 12 months in February, and it's 7 months now, and I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, we are doing this, it's going to be awesome, and he's going to see it finish, and
Mm-hmm.
and so, like, I've sold dogs, and I got down low on dogs. Like, I'm down to the bare bones of my stuff, because I wanted to speed up the process so my dad can see my house finished.
Mm-hmm.
As we build it together. And, like, it took a toll on me to get rid of my good dogs and to not hunt as much, but I didn't let them all go, and I'll build back up, and I know how to make dogs, so I'm like, it's gonna be okay. I'll make new, but I'll never have another dad. So
no, that's right. How close are you to finishing your house?
Well, we just got the tin and all the windows up on it. So Dad's been putting up I've got 3 walls that divide my bedroom from the bathroom, and then my bedroom and bathroom from the living room. So he put up those 3 walls and part of the loft. I vaulted the ceilings, and I'm lofting for Luna's room, which is my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And he started on that while I'm off working. I work 1 week, and then I spend the week with my daughter and my dad to build on my house. So it's like, I'm sacrificing work to spend time with my dad and my daughter before she's 5, which means she has to go to school every day, and I don't get to see her as much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like money's been tight because I'm making all these decisions to do a certain way, and, like, but it's also summertime, so it kind of happened at a decent time where I'm not so in the mood to hunt. I'm like, it's miserable, it's hot, let's get this house built. But we got all that up. I still need to do electrical and plumbing, insulate the walls on the inside, and then put walls up.
Okay.
But I don't know. Maybe the good Lord will give my dad more time.
Well, he could always. The good Lord can always provide some good help.
Yeah, yeah, some good
Now-
help to finish the house. I've had a lot of people, give me money and stuff to help us along.
Well, I was going to say that I know a guy named Joey, and he's got a son named Nate that have. I've been a builder for 30 years, and I wouldn't mind donating a weekend or something. Come out and do some work if you get to the point where you need some help.
Yeah,
Wouldn't charge you a dime. We could go hunting some other time. We could come out and work and help your dad and yourself. If you get to the point where you need some help like that.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much.
I mean, we got truck, tools, trailer, and I mean, Nate already know where I'm going this way. He's just like, that's what we do.
Make a weekend out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, because if you got experienced people, you can do 5 times the amount of work with 1/5 of the amount of people. If you have somebody there who's highly experienced and has the tools and the knowledge and the know-how.
Yeah, and like my dad, he beats himself up as we build this house. He's not a carpenter at all. He built a few houses and barns 30 years ago. He's a cowboy, and he's been a cowboy his whole life. So like as we're building this, it's like old school knowledge.
Yeah.
And he's building it old school ways. And there's like, my brother builds houses. He lives in Arizona, and I like, send him pictures of it, and he's like, that's not right. And I'm like, I'll talk to Dad. And he's like, well. And I'm like, I talked to Dad, and he's like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to like sound ungrateful. I was just telling you what your son said. And anyways, it's like I don't want you to be sad that it's not perfect, Dad. It's perfect for us. It's going to be okay. I know you don't. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just out here following orders.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
and that's the thing about it is like, if you're happy with it and it doesn't fall down and hurt you, well, it's a win-win. I've seen guys that have been building as long or longer than I have, and they're not doing that good of a job. I'll be honest with you. It's like, wow, I cannot believe you're still doing this. But at the same time, I've been on projects that were multi-million-dollar homes. We built custom homes on Smith Lake. My uncle, my grandfather, my great grandfather. This is generational. That's all we know. And so I'm the one that kind of broke away from it. I still do it, but not as much. We do this now. We're getting to trying to make a go of this, to do this as a living. To do, a podcast. We have a supply store. We do hog removal. We're doing dogs. We're going to do some dog training, boarding. We're doing the whole 9 yards, and it takes a lot to do that. But at the same time, when I was out here swinging a hammer every day, I seen guys that were miserable, elbow to elbow with me, and hated what they were doing. Yeah. And then I seen guys that absolutely loved doing it and had no damn idea what they were doing. You know what I mean? And I found myself being one of those guys where I wasn't that happy anymore building. And so I was like, well, I don't see no sense in just keep pushing on with it, but I still enjoy doing it. I'm always going to do it, but I don't want to do it I don't want to have a construction company anymore is what I'm saying. But like in a situation like this, shoot, like a couple days, go out there, we can knock out some stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask my dad, and because he's one of those old timers, I don't need no help.
And I know, like I said, we're just talking on here, and you don't know me, and so it's like this crazy son of guns, and do I don't know them people, but like that's generally anybody that does know me, they'll tell you that's how I am, and I wholeheartedly mean it. When if you call and say, hey, we could use some help, you're going to get some help. That's just how it is.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
I very much appreciate that.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of respect for people like your dad. There's a lot of folks that they would give up and just sit down and mope and wallow. And
he's not doing that.
Exactly.
He's doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
He's building a house.
It's 100 degrees and he's out there stage 4 cancer building a house. I mean, that's a cowboy.
Yeah.
That's a man. And we're running short on men in the world today. It seems like.
I agree.
You know, so, but anyway, like I said, I hope everything, everything works out good on that end for you. I really do.
I'll send y'all some pictures. I'm proud of it.
Yeah, and I'm one of those now. I like the old logs. I like working with hand tools. I like the old style stuff. And but now, like I build ultra modern stuff too. It's all the same.
Yeah.
If it's wood, or I can do it. But
yeah.
So with that, what kind of good hunting stories do you got? So we got to get off this. I'm gonna get emotional, start crying. I'm getting where I think I'm pregnant now. So I want to cry all the time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, all these guests get on here and they start telling me stuff, and I'm like, man, I just when I'm sitting here myself, I'm thinking, man, it's tough. I got all this going on and all that, and then like somebody else has more stuff going on. So it's like, man, what? My life ain't bad. Nobody's, it's like, come on.
Yeah.
Pick
It could always be worse.
Yeah, it could always be worse, man. And I don't mean that in any way, you know that. But at the same time, there's so many people that don't look at it like that.
Yeah.
I try to be positive as much as possible. And I don't know. Sometimes it's tough. It's tough to be positive. When you got so much negativity going on. So on that positive note there, tell us some good hunting stories. Something you said you caught a 380 pounder.
Yeah.
Well, what's your first hog that you ever caught with your dogs? Tell us the first one, not the biggest one, but the first one.
First one with my dogs. Okay, so Red was like 9 months old, and I was hunting the sage patch grass, and I was hunting with somebody that had Catahoula's, and I was like, his dogs were hanging around, and Red was hustling, and I was like, I'm gonna just go over here by myself, and me and Red, and I had a black gyp also. I just got her. She was 6 months old, and which is very, very young. Like me now, I'm like, I should not have hunted that 9 month old and 6 month old and thought I was the baddest thing in the woods. Mm-hmm. But I was young, and I was like, I can do anything, and my dogs can do anything because they're super awesome. But anyways, I go out and I catch 2 shotes with that red dog. He finds and catches both of them in this tall sage grass, and there's hogs running all around me, and I'm just tickled pink. And then he rolls over and tries to catch a big boar hog. He gets whooped in a slough, and the hog gets away. And I was furious. I was so mad. I was like, he just caught 2 small hogs, and he couldn't catch that big hog. I needed more dog power. So in my mind, I was like, I'm getting more running catch dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And, I thought everyone would be like Red.
That's where the sickness became. That's when the sickness set in.
That's where the sickness came in, and forevermore, I tried for 13 years to make more Reds and whatnot. But, I've had other great dogs that weren't him, but I've had other great, great dogs. And that was my first hog by myself, and I thought I was the queen of the world. And then the big boar hog humbled me the same day.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that would be better to be done like that, or like I was doing real good. And then I got humbled, about a year into it. I had 3 dogs, and I had all 3 dogs with me at one time. And I caught the tail end of a couple hogs crossing the road. And so I stopped and went down a ridge, and I sent one dog out. Dog started barking, and I was like, well, it's a big hog because he don't ever bark. Sent one of the dogs, and it was bulldog. Sent one down there, sent Lily. Well, she caught before she got to where the dog was barking, before she got to Dutch. I said, what in the hell? I said, oh man, she ran up on one. So he's still down there. And then when this big hog starts grunting up here, he winds up catching the hog down in the bottom. So now I'm running down there, and I've got Purvis with me. I got a big red nose, and I got him on lead, and I'm running, and a hog literally runs into me. And when that hog's nose touched about my leg, Purvis grabbed him while I'm holding him on the leash. And now I've got 3 dogs caught on 3 separate hogs by myself.
Oh, no.
Now what do you do? That was down there at Chestnut Ridge. That was horrible. Because you know how many hogs I caught or wound up catching altogether? None. Absolutely zero.
I would be so mad.
We were going up there by the big fans one day. This was after that. I don't remember if it was Kevin with me. Were you with me? We had identical scenario. And I knew then, I said, do not turn all them dogs loose. I said, don't do it. Because it was a good group of hogs, but there was big hogs in it. And I knew I said, we got to keep the dogs up here until we get down there and actually see one of them baying, you know, because at the time I was running real rough dogs. And when that little dog went to baying, I was like, usually he catches. I knew it was a big hog. And then I had my catch dog is caught before it gets to the hog. Then my bay dog, he decides he's going to catch. And now the catch dog that I'm holding is caught on a hog beside me. And I mean, I didn't know whether to shit or go blind. I'll be honest. It was wild. And I got humbled real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. The humbling hunts have made me a better hunter because I don't get angry anymore. I'm just like, it happens.
Yep. And that big red nose, when he grabbed that hog, I thought the hog was 500 pounds with 6-inch teeth, and he was probably 75 pounds, you know. And the bulldog is just as big as the hog, but I went to turn to the side, the hog went one way, and I got in between the hog and the dog somehow, and ear come off. Yeah, so I got a bulldog sitting there shaking his head. And he's got this little ear in his mouth, and a pig's running down the road. Like I said, now in my mind, it's 500 pounds with 6-inch teeth, and it really wasn't. It wasn't much bigger than a shoat. So it's pretty wild. So when you caught them big hogs, the ones you said you caught a couple of 280s by yourself.
Yeah.
Give us a story on them.
Let's see. The first 280 pounder was a bar. And actually, he was my second 200. The first 280 pounder, it was red struck and cold trailed him a long ways and caught him by himself. And I went in there and I was just like, oh my gosh, that's the biggest hog I've ever seen in the woods. And Red's holding him and like he's all by himself. So I'm just, going with the rear end of the hog, waiting for an opportunity to snag it. So we don't, because we were in tight CRP trees, and I was trying to make sure I made a good catch so it doesn't get us all bound up and I get taken down. Because once I get taken down, anything could happen to him, and we all go down together. It's like the main vessel. You don't want the main vessel to go down, but you also don't want to risk your dogs getting down. So smart decisions: catch hogs, kill hogs, the dogs don't get hurt. Anyways, I grab him and I grab his leg and I'm like, I can't pick him up. So I grab onto his razorback and I straddle him like a small horse and I just start sticking him. And then he goes down and I look right over. He's got some minor cuts and he's got some pretty good teeth. But he's got minor cuts, nothing too bad. And I call the landowner and the landowner's like, hey, I can send somebody over there. And I'm like, yeah, I would really like to weigh it. And they load it up for me, and I take it home, and it was 280 pounds. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And it was me and my red dog. He was young. He was probably like 2 or so. And then the next hog was 280 pounds. It was in kind of like the big mountain hill, big hills. They were really, really big hills. And my hounds chased it. No, they didn't chase him real far because he was quite the fatty. He was a bar, and the boar tried harder than the bar, which makes sense to me. But the bar, he ran, and whenever I come up on him, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like a jiggly black and white hog. He was very jiggly because the bar was 280 pounds of muscle and shield, and the boar was, and then the bar was just a little flabby hippo out there. Anyways, he had the hounds on him. I sent 2 running catch dogs to him because that was when I was transitioning from running catch dogs to lead and catch dogs. And when I had those running catch dogs learning that trick, they hated it. They were like, "This is dumb. You let us go hunt with them hounds." And I was like, "Never. You will die violent deaths out here because they'll be like bayed 6 miles and you'll be dead by the time I get there, or exhausted and can't even hold it." But anyways, they caught it, and I crawled on top of that fat boy, and he was such a, I don't know, such a weenie of a hog for 280 pounds. I guess because he's a bar and he was so fat, he jiggled all the way down and started squealing, and I was like, "Oh, you're nothing like that other one." And I drug him out on the 4-wheeler, and I called that landowner, and they're like, "Yeah, let's look at it." And they were like, "Oh my gosh, it's so cool!" And it had giant, pretty bar teeth. You know, like there's boar teeth and then there's bar teeth, and he had the nice, wide, pretty bar teeth. And that was a lot of fun. I like straddling the big boys. I'm like, I'm riding a very, very large hog. It's like if I was going to go into war in like fantasy world, I would ride a boar.
There you go.
I'd have a big boar hog. Anyways, but yeah, the 320 pounder I killed by myself. I couldn't straddle him because he would take my feet up off the ground, and I can ride a horse because I caught wild cattle off horseback and all that stuff, but he was very violent. He was very strong, and I assessed the situation. I grabbed him by the tail, and I sucked him up to me, and I shot him in the hips straight downward with a 357, and it crippled him, and then I stuck him. But his was very, very violent. The 280 with one catch dog, like Red was handling him very well. But I had 2 catch dogs and 3 hounds trying to hold that 320, and he was very violent. And I was like, I'm making the best decision for all of us, and I crippled him with a 357. So
Put it on him.
yeah, I was not playing. He was doing mega business, and I meant business too. So
sweet. Now, do you do any guided hunts or anything?
I have. I've had some good experiences and some bad. So one of my bad experiences, I took a I was on my landowner's place in the mountains, and I took one of their people that was extremely wealthy from another country, and he handed me his new AR-15. He was like, "Teach me how to use it. I don't know anything about guns." And I was like, "Oh no." And I was just like, "Don't shoot anything other than a hog. Do not, and assess the situation. Here's your safety. Here's this." And they're like, "Cody, just do whatever he wants. He's worth a lot of money." And I'm like, "Yeah, but what if I get shot?" And they're like, "You won't get shot. It'll be all right." I'm hunting out in the woods, and I hear this guy shooting that AR, and I'm like, "Lord, I know it's not a hog because my dogs aren't over there." And I mean, unless the hogs are walking by him and my dogs missed it, because I looped the area around him. Anyways, I come out of the woods, and he's like, "I shot tree." I was like, "Oh, what'd you shoot tree for?" And he's like, it moved. And I was like,
"Oh my,
please don't do that. That's extremely dangerous." And I've had situations like that, and then I'll take somebody that's, an actually enjoyable person to be around. But for the most part, I try not to guide very many people. I will guide children more than I will adults. And I'll try to take women, because women, women that want to go, they're enjoyable. They're like, "Yeah, that's a new experience. I want to see what why my husband likes this so much." And a lot of women that I take, they really get a kick out of it. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you're so fearless," and this, that, and the other. And they're like, "How do you do it?" And I'm like, I don't really feel fear during the situation. I just we're all in there. Yeah, we're all in there together. We're helping each other, and I mean me and the dogs. So.
Well, that's Jen Cubbage was talking about. I don't know if you know who Jen is.
No.
We interviewed her not long ago. She's from was it Maryland? Yeah, she's from Maryland, and she goes to South Carolina and hunts. And she literally went on a hunt with like a paid hunt, and she went and got her couple of dogs and just started walking the national forest. She had no idea about anything, and now she's successful at it. Like she has dual purpose dogs. She runs bear hounds. She takes her bear dogs and catches hogs and vice versa. But she's talking about doing basically like a women's camp kind of deal, or like a retreat,
cool.
like a retreat,
Yeah.
I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
And she was talking about it, and she was like, well, I don't know. I said, I guarantee you need to do that, because
I think she would be successful at that.
Oh yeah. Cause I've had a bunch of women tell, they're like, hey, is she going to do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm hoping so. And, so, I mean, that might be something right there. You guys might need to hook up, interact a little bit. And that might be something y'all can work on together.
Yeah, I would definitely.
Because she's the real deal. Like I said, she's a hunter, a huntress.
Huntress.
Yeah, she's a huntress for sure. Velvet season came in, and I think she's done killed a couple of bucks this year already. Like I said, she's legit. She owns, I think, a couple of hair salons. Like she had a chain of hair salons, but she's getting out. I think she's getting out of that. She bought her a farm, and like I said, she stays in the woods, and she has the same issues that you've had in the past, is getting property and hunting with people, or finding somebody to hunt with that's decent people, that's not trying to do it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, just taking women out that haven't done it before, or they want to see what it's all about, or they might really be all about it. They don't get the same opportunities. I don't care what people say. They can say, "Oh yeah, well it ain't no different." It is. I guarantee you, it is.
Yeah.
Because y'all have to deal with so much more than we do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in different ways, yes, we do.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. And if you get a few of you guys together that can put something together like that, that might be something you can look into. Maybe
I would
have
love
some
to
kind
do
of
that.
retreat. So
yeah, I would really enjoy doing that.
Awesome.
Because I want to encourage women into the hunting world.
There you go. Well, with that being said, right there, Miss Cody, I know we've held you up a pretty good bit. I think we're already at a couple hours on here. Is there anything else you want to bring up, or you want to leave it off with?
Well, I don't know. We've covered a lot, and I definitely just encourage as many women and children to get into the hunting, and I encourage men to support women and children in the hunting world, because it's going to make it a better place for everyone. If there's more people that love it and support it, from young to women to old, I just think it'll be a lot better for everybody involved in hunting.
Couldn't agree more. That's something that we all need to do right there. We need to be advocates. We appreciate your time. Thank you for being on with us. Thank you for telling us the good stories and letting us be a part of your life.
Yes, thank you guys so much for having me. I've enjoyed it very much.
All right. Well, we appreciate you. And like I said, if you ever need a hand with anything, just let us know.
Yes, sir. I will. I will tell my dad, and I'm sure he'll say something.
All right. Well,
he's a hell guy.
All right. We appreciate you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, folks. Now that right there that's pretty cool. Like she definitely knows what the deal is with the dogs. She knows the schematics of it. She knows the layout of it, and she's a successful hog hunter. So that's somebody that you can check out, look at on social media and stuff like that. I'm sure there'll be a lot of stuff in the future from Miss Cody Fox. So, and we just wanted to throw that out there to make Miss Tracy happy. Now we do appreciate it, and we need to have more women on, more women involved, and get their voice out there, and their outlook and their opinions on hunting and the way to do dogs and the way that they do their hunts. And so that way we can all work together and keep our heritage and tradition alive. So till the next time, we will catch y'all later.
Thank you. Hope y'all enjoyed that episode. Stay tuned for our new episodes every Monday and Wednesday. For questions, advertising, or just to chat, email DixieDoggers01@gmail.com.